Welcome. Thank you for joining us today, September 25th, 2024, at the Virtual Candidate Forum for the East Bay Regional Park District, Ward 2. I'm Jennifer Nixon, a member of the League of Women Voters of Piedmont. We're pleased to have as co-sponsors today the League of Women Voters of West Contra Costa County and the League of Oakland, as well as Piedmont. The League of Women Voters is a trusted membership organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not endorse or oppose candidates or political parties. The League participates in issue advocacy and voter education. The advocacy arm of the League may take positions on issues or ballot measures. This forum is presented by the education arm of the League, which does not take positions or advocate for them. Before we introduce the candidates, I have a few logistical items to review for everyone. The candidates and co-sponsoring leagues have all agreed to participate under guidelines set for this forum. Microphones are muted for everyone except the candidates and the moderator. Video images will show the candidates and your moderator. We are recording this forum and will be posting it via the League of Women Voters of Piedmont's YouTube channel and website. The links to all the co-sponsors will be posted in the chat box. Our candidates for the director office are Lynda Deschambault, Casey Farmer, and Shane Reisman. Good to see you all tonight, and thank you for being here. I'd like next to present a bit of background information about this office. The East Bay Regional Park District is governed by a 7-member board of directors. Each director represents a specific geographic area of the district, known as a ward. The district itself comprises all of Alameda and Contra Costa counties. Directors are publicly elected to serve 4-year terms, with elections staggered every 2 years in November. 3 terms expire in 1 even-numbered year, and 4 terms expire the following even-numbered year. The East Bay Regional Park District is a system of beautiful parklands in Alameda and Contra Costa counties to the east of San Francisco. The system comprises 73 parks spanning across more than 126,000 acres, 1,330 miles of trails, and 55 miles of shoreland. The district manages and preserves natural and cultural resources for all to enjoy and protect. The regional parks are ideal for healthful recreation and environmental education. Its mission statement reads, "The East Bay Regional Park District preserves a rich heritage of natural and cultural resources and provides open space, parks, trails, safe and healthful recreation, and environmental education. An environmental ethic guides the district in all its activities." You are here because you want to make smart choices when you vote. The League is here to help you make a smart choice, using a few simple rules to be sure you have the information you'll need to help you make that decision through a fair and balanced process. It's important to the League to give the community a voice, which is why we invited the community via the forum registration page to send us questions for the candidates in advance. Those questions have been sorted by a team of League leaders to avoid duplicate questions and to select those questions that are most important to the community. We will not be taking questions during this forum. The Q&A and chat features have been turned off to minimize distraction. I'll remind the candidates of key ground rules. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. To keep the discussion flowing, candidates will be expected to keep answers to the questions to 1.5 minutes. These will be timed, and the timer clock can be seen by all. Viewers can minimize the timer clock by using the grab bar in between the left and right sides of the screen. In order to be fair to the other candidates, if you run over, I'll need to cut you off. We'll switch up the order so each candidate has a chance to answer first. I picked names out of a hat, and Shane Reisman will be going first. At the end of the Q&A section, each candidate will have 1 minute to provide a closing statement. So let's begin with our first candidate. Shane, for your opening statement, you have two minutes.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Shane Reisman. I'm running for East Bay Parks in Ward 2. I'm going to talk about 3 things tonight: my qualifications for this job, my vision for this job, and my long-term commitment to this job. So, number 1, my qualifications. I'm a strategy and operations consultant. Unlike my competitors, I come from the private sector. So I've built successful teams, I've worked with customers, and I've delivered projects. But I'm also a parks commissioner here where I live in Lafayette, so I understand parks issues. This is a unique qualification in this field that brings together business background and parks. So I'll be able to promote a culture at East Bay Parks that's more customer centric and more results oriented. The next thing I want to talk about is my vision for this job and why I'm running. I'm going to be a champion for park access. Now, this is a big ward. Covers Alameda County, covers Contra Costa County. So access means different things for different people. To be a champion of access in Oakland means to create access for the 50,000 people who don't live anywhere near a park in Oakland. But to be a champion of access here where I live in La Marinda could mean more to do with good signs, good maps, good safe trail experiences. It's all about being a champion for access here in Ward 2, and that's my vision and why I'm running. And the final thing I want to talk about is my long-term commitment to this job. Now, I understand a lot of people use this role as a stepping stone to the next role that they're going to take. Maybe they're political. And if you look at the campaign disclosures, the financial statements that are going to come out tonight, tomorrow, you'll see that there's some interest maybe that lie beyond parks. My interest and my commitment and my long-term career is about parks. And I want to talk more tonight about my commitment and my parks projects.
Thank you. Thank you. Casey?
Good evening. I want to thank the League for hosting us here this evening, all of your hard work, and for investing in the resources so that voters can watch this forum at their convenience on video. I've been honored to work with many leagues throughout the East Bay throughout my career, and I've earned the Making Democracy Work Award from the League of Women Voters of Oakland in 2020 for my work on Census 2020. It's displayed right behind me on my billboard. I believe that our parks are treasures of the East Bay and that they deserve to be represented by an effective advocate who will keep them thriving, resilient, and accessible to all. Someone who is experienced in writing and implementing public policy, thinking through how it will affect people on the ground. Someone who is skilled at engaging and working with community stakeholders from across the East Bay. I am deeply rooted in this community from my work breaking down barriers to census participation in Oakland and many marginalized communities I am deeply connected to. The role will benefit if someone is strong at working to hold government accountable for excellent service to the public, breaking down the barriers of other bureaucracies. I have done all of these things throughout my career for 16 years serving the East Bay, and they really align with what the park director job description is: to work on policy, to advocate for a budget that reflects our values. It's our public property tax dollars, and it needs to be used for the best service to the public, both environmental preservation and public access. I am excited to tell you more about my priorities related to expanding equity and access, wildfire prevention, and climate resilience. But I hope you'll look at my background of public service as thank you.
Thank you. Lynda?
Yes, hi everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity this evening. As you heard, the Park District is the largest regional district in the nation, and it's why so many of us live here and love to live here. And it truly deserves to have the most experienced of persons fighting for it on its behalf. And that's why I'm running for this seat. I think you should know that I don't need training for this job, and that 2 of the seasoned park directors, Coffey and Waspy, agree with that. They've endorsed me as a preferred candidate to join them as an elected official at the table, because we need to oversee this amazing park district at a time it's going through a lot of pressure. Other leaders at the Sierra Club, Greenbelt, Audubon, League of Conservation Voters all agree. And I tell you this because it's not a political seat that you're hearing about tonight. This is an oversight of a natural resources agency. So it's really important when you're looking at a job and the job description. We have wonderful people, but it's actually very important to pick the person best for the job that's advertised. I am ready to serve for this job as your volunteer and elected official to the Park District. I have the degrees, I have the experience. 37 years I've worked, 20 as an EPA scientist, director of programs, director of project management, master's in business, oversight of financial sites. I've been a union member. I've been a former mayor. I've been an advocate driving government climate action plans and putting climate resiliency plans in place. And I'm doing the work already. I've done Parks and Rec commissions in other cities, but I'm actually on the agency's park commission right now and have been for the past 26 years, intentionally preparing to run for this seat, participating in the park district, its budgets, its programs, and this is my life's work. Nature is where I found my peace, my healing as a young child from an abusive family and homeless at 15. I find that nature is where we get our balance, but we're off balance now, and I look forward to telling you a little bit more about how I plan to bring us back on target and why I think I'm the best person for this job.
Thank you. All right, now it's time for the candidates to answer your questions. Casey, you will go first, then Lynda and Shane. Lynda, you'll go first for the next question, and so on. So the first question is for Casey. What are your thoughts on best management practices for wildfire prevention?
The district must take wildfire resilience as imperative to the protection of the open space that we have been nurturing and caring for the last 90 years. It is at great risk and will continue to be so with our climate emergency. Specifically, I want to see expanded hours of our fire department. These are the workers that are preventing fires and responding to fires. They have helped save lots of lands through their great work, and we need them to be on the ground for more hours, especially during high-risk fire season days. We need to pioneer on wildfire, reducing our wildfire load. That means much more vegetation management, working really closely with our neighbors. Those are individual residents and other agencies like East Bay Mud. That's why I think that I'm the strongest candidate for this role, because I have a background in these partnerships where we get things done, we hold one another accountable, we work together to leverage resources, because all of this costs money. I support the Park District in its efforts to close parks on high fire risk days. That protects our people, our wildlife, and our emergency personnel that need to be on the ground in an emergency. You know, the Park District natural infrastructure is helping us fight climate change, and it's imperative we keep those lands especially protected. So it's a really multiple, a large approach to doing so.
Thank you. Lynda, be sure to unmute.
Yes, hi. Definitely, since we are the largest landowner in the nation, in the country, we absolutely need to be at the table, and we should have more resources and opportunities for us to get involved and get engaged to prevent the fires as well as to defend them once they take place. I actually have deep connections and with both federal, state, and local agencies. My history as a professional project manager, I think I'd be well qualified to bring together the East Bay Hills, the various coalitions that need to come together for these meetings. The Park District is a landowner just like any other landowner, and we need to do our part to clear the lands, take care of the lands. We do have a climate emergency, but we have actually never developed a climate action plan. And with the Second Century Plan coming, which is our blueprint for the coming years, I do hope that we take this more seriously. We look at climate action plans, resiliency plans, emergency planning, and that we actually get together and work with the agencies, the local cities, and do a better job Right now, I understand we're often at the table more of as an advisory nature, because it's been made clear to me that our agency's mission is for protecting and preserving lands, whereas fire districts' jobs are for preventing fires. I think we need to break down those barriers. We need to bring the people together. We need to be there at the table, and we need to take this very seriously. We have 1,500 acres of dead trees, and as landowners of that property, we need to take care to do something about it.
Thank you. Shane.
Yeah, thanks. I take a slightly different standpoint. I understand policy and planning are important, but I sort of see the threat of wildfire as long-term, and it needs sort of a different sort of perspective that takes into consideration the fact that there's a lot of awesome technology available that right now the East Bay Parks does not have the workforce to sort of explore, innovate with, and manage. So there's a lot a lot of new capabilities around risk assessment, so we can evaluate risks ahead of time. So these things can be done at minimal risk to our resources. The thing is, we need to build a workforce that's for the next generation, and with a team of people with the skills that know how to work with this technology, data, analytics, visualization, to really bring our perspective on wildfire into like the next generation, into the future, and really establish ourselves here in the East Bay as leaders in understanding climate change and response to climate change.
Thank you. Okay, the second question, we'll start with Lynda on this one. What would be your approach to improving water quality at lakes within Ward 2 that suffer from toxic green-blue algae blooms?
I have managed a number of water treatment facility plants and pump and treat operations. There's all sorts of different ways of dealing with the chemicals, but you also have to take a look at each of the lakes and the situation and how they're different. Whether the Temescal is closed for swimming or Lake Anza, there are different opportunities, technologies. I'm familiar with all of them, where you either would pump and treat or aerate the land. There's opportunities for capping the nutrients in the soil. There's opportunities for adding chelating agents so that they would flocculate and drop to the ground. The problem really is that all of these things are major capital improvement projects. Our Lake Temescal used to be 80 feet deep. It's now 15 feet deep. Dredging something like that is going to take a lot of money. What we're really going to have to do is take a close look at our finances and try to figure out how we can make sure all of the groups are working efficiently with one another, that each lake, each water body has the proper type of pump and treat water system or chelation that it needs, and that we are able to triage and put a priority on these resources. Right now, some of the lakes are closed, they're not accessible. Some of them are fatal to pets and animals. This is a super high priority, and this again is related to climate change. The waters are warming and they're staying warmer for a longer period of time, and we need to take these systems all together in an institutionalized second century plan, which we'll be writing in 2025.
Shane, your turn.
Repeat the question.
The question is, what would be your approach to improving water quality at lakes within Ward 2 that suffer from toxic green-blue algae blooms?
Yeah. Well, it requires an enterprise-wide and government-wide solution that includes not just us, but partnering with government agencies and water utilities and the environmental agencies that have an impact and some oversight in monitoring. But I think one of the most important things beyond finding the source of the problem and monitoring is communication with the public. These are public waterways, and everybody has a right to know what's going on with our shared resources. The key activity for East Bay Parks is to communicate to the public what's happened, what's the risk, what's the response, and what's the timeline, what's the safety threat that people are facing here. So all agencies provide a role in addressing and monitoring, but I think the key activity for East Bay Parks is communicating to the public the risks, the impacts, and the long-term resolution.
All right, thank you. Casey?
Thank you. This is something I think about a lot. I go to Lake Temescal with my children. I'm a mom of young kids, and Lake Temescal is a remarkable place. It's one of the very first regional parks. Fun fact. So, Lynda really laid out that question very well. We both serve on the Park Advisory Committee together. Really appreciate her explaining how challenging the issue is. In terms of, we need to oxygenate our lakes. We are doing unique things like adding dye to make the water darker so that it does not have as much evaporation. There are a number of pollutants and other nutrients that have gotten into our water sources, even though we are doing a great job of making our lake publicly accessible and maintaining it on our own property. But in the watershed, there have been these pollutants. And we need to hold the entities accountable who caused that pollution to get into our lakes. It is having a direct impact on public access for the hundreds of people that want to swim at our beaches every day and cannot do so. It definitely relates to the depth of the water, and we need to be working on big capital investments we can get, such as the state climate bond, which is on the ballot. I know the Park District has been advocating for some of those resources. I would strongly support that. I also talked to our scientists about this, and it's a very dynamic bacteria, so it's growing and changing, and we have to continue to innovate.
All right, the third question, and we will start with Shane, is what measures do you think would alleviate and prevent crime in the park? For example, auto break-ins and assaults.
Interesting question. There's been a lot of research on crime and parks, and a lot of it bears out that clean, safe, well-lit, well-designed parks can reduce crime nearby. I've been very involved in public safety in Alameda County, been a big advocate for increasing park access because I do believe it makes spaces safer. As far as what are the features of a safe park? Was that the question?
It's about measures. What measures do you think would alleviate and prevent crime in the park?
Yeah, well, parks are designed in such a way with low hills, with minimal shrubbery, with lighting, open spaces, monitoring access, community involvement and oversight are all key features of a safe park. We strove to create a safe park space here in Lafayette. And we understood by achieving these things that were down to the design of the features of the park, you could create a safer space.
Thank you. Casey, you're next.
Thank you. I'd really like to look at the data about this, working with our Park District Police as to where they're seeing spikes in crime, how signage is or is not reducing the number of car break-ins. I think that we need great lighting in our parks and staff to greet and monitor the parking lots as much as possible. I know that our parks are becoming more popular from COVID and population growth. And so we need to be able to be nimble with our staff to assign them to places where they can offer the safety and support to the people that are using them. So I want to, it's sort of an HR personnel issue, and it also is a signage issue, and then really looking at our data and being collaborative internally with the Park District staff about what is working and what is not. In terms of safety on the trails, I would also think that that's something we need to look at the data and encourage park visitors to hike with groups, to provide restorative support to those victims of those crimes, to really follow patterns of those crimes and provide good messaging to the public so that next door is not the information that people read, but they read thorough analysis from our trained staff, from our police, and that we try to prevent those things from ever happening again. Thank you.
Lynda.
Yes, this is an interesting question. I would love to know more about the word you specifically used was crimes versus safety. You know, we do have a well-recognized separate police force at the East Bay Regional Park District, and I have understood that they're very sustainable and pretty well funded. At the same time, they are union workers at the bargaining table, and I would like to know if we have sufficient FTE for coverage and things like that. I know staff has had issues in the middle of the night, people coming in and doing things with the bike trails, breaking down fences. There was some discussion about putting in more cameras of opportunities, how that might happen. I'd be super careful about adding light. Too much light in wild places can disrupt habitat and such. Trying to find out where are the crimes in the parking lots, perhaps more additional lighting. Like I said, maybe more cameras, more FTEs, taking a closer look. One of the things I'm really interested in, the Park District has this, I think it's the initials of VTSD, Voluntary Trail Safety Division. And it's actually a group of resident citizens who actually self-police and turn in. I've also on this campaign trail found that a lot of people aren't even aware of the public alert opportunity we have on our website. It has not been front and center. I've heard about some people having issues, whether it's about harm or injury with horses, or someone did get a purse stolen and they didn't know where to report it. So I think we can do a better job all around of public involvement, the volunteer safety department, and really take a look at what our police department needs to do their job.
Thank you. All right, the fourth question, and Casey, you'll take this first. Where do you stand on eradicating eucalyptus trees within the park properties as a means of restoring native habitat and managing wildfires?
I definitely recognize the great fire risk that our eucalyptus trees offer. I've seen some very innovative things as a park advisory committee member, where we have, for example, near Port Costa, our fire department both caught a fire from burning down the entire town, and we then pursued a grant to remove the eucalyptus grove where that wildfire had started to prevent those eucalyptus from growing back, and where we planted live oaks from acorns from trees nearby at another regional park. I think that's innovative approach to reducing the risk. We saw the risk. We are moving forward, thinking of the climate of the future and bringing back those native species we know can thrive in the future and not cause harm. I definitely believe in thinning. We're also doing another project in Sibley where we're replacing eucalyptus with redwoods that grow well in that grove. So I appreciate the district's leadership on that, because fire risk is so high in so many parts of our parks, putting our own parkland and our staff at risk, and of course our neighbors, and of course the entire region. So I am supportive of that, and I believe that the public will is in support of that as well. I serve on the Oakland Fire Safe Council. I'm glad to support our local measure to increase taxes so that the city of Oakland can expand its efforts on reducing risk.
Lynda, you're next.
Yeah, eucalyptus trees are a real issue here, brought in to grow fast and furious, and they did just that, but they are also very high fuel and a real problem for the Bay Area. The problem is if we just completely take them out and clear cut, the first thing that's going to come back are invasive species. Even in the process of thinning them out, some of the other colleagues have been pro doing things like with, getting in goats or clearing or moving out the trees and thinning and clearing. But the problem is, study has shown that only thing that comes back is poison oak. So you have to really be careful. We really need a biological review and a plan when you are doing this type of removal. And the way to go is maybe some combination. What I've done and had experience with local governments before is really making sure that in whatever approach we take, thinning, removing, planting natives, we really have to do it a ratio of 4 to 1, because studies have shown that we have this crisis, we have this emergency, and just replacing one tree to one tree and looking at plants that are native to that area have to be done. So for every one tree that's removed, 4 trees should be planted. And that's because a lot of them don't make it. And that's also because we have 1,500 trees that are dying every day. So we have to use a real balance. We need to get those eucalyptus, that fire fuel, out of there. We need to do it with care so that we aren't encouraging other invasives to take over the invasives that we're removing. And we really need to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's going to be sustainable in the long term, that we're going to have the trees that we need down the road.
Shane.
Thank you. Yep, a lot of good information's already been shared about policy with regard to eucalyptus management. What I have found is that there's not a lot of public communication around the threat with eucalyptus. So obviously there's a lot of eucalyptus trees and they've been planted here, but a lot of people don't understand that they're not native and that they're basically fire bombs and they create a lot of fire risk. And so you see a lot of pushback. People just don't understand what the big, like we talk about eucalyptus all the time, but people just don't get it. It's another one of those issues where East Bay Parks is not front and center enough explaining the risk and explaining the response. I think people will be fine with the responses that we've talked here today about today. They're sustainable. Replacing eucalyptus with non-invasive species is something that people understand. If that is explained to them as a means to control fire, people can get behind that. Monitoring, asking individuals to self-monitor. There's not a lot of that happening today. Mulching, people will get very into mulching if we talk about the opportunity to generate more biodegradable product from these eucalyptus trees, people would understand the risk and the response and what we can all do to kind of help address and mitigate the situation. So public communication, public awareness is going to be my focus when talking about eucalyptus trees and the threat that they pose.
Okay, on to question number 5. Lynda, you'll start us off with this. What plans do you think East Bay Regional Park District Ward 2 should have in case of a fire or earthquake emergency? How would you communicate with and evacuate visitors?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I have not actually seen ever, how we get the Nixle alerts and we know what's going on. I would imagine that our police department must also have that type of response. We all know that fire goes uphill. So a lot of our parks are up in the nature areas, and that would be the places where you would want to mitigate and avoid people going into the parks during a time of emergency. At the same time, some of our parks are down by the shoreline, and those might be actually areas that are appropriate for gathering or for opportunities to move out and away from the forest. We have such a large park district. It's why we really need the second century plan. We really need to look at a resiliency plan, not just for our parks and our trees and climate, but an emergency plan, because the threat of fire is real. It is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we really need to have a better plan, a complete plan. And even though I've served on the Parks Advisory Commission for 6 years, this question really intrigues me because I actually haven't seen, surely as the directors and others, but I would really like to know what exactly we do have for emergency and if we do use Nixle as others do. But that responsibility still relies with the cities that are around us. I've talked with the Moraga-Orinda Fire Department in the cities whose mission and task is fire protection and for dealing with that, versus we are a landowner and a land user, and we just need to make sure that we're managing our land and we're getting people out and off of the property in an efficient manner.
All right, Shane, you're next.
Sure. Yeah. Once again, I believe that East Bay Parks District could do a much better job in communicating risk, threat, and response. As Lynda was saying, obviously wildfire is a risk, and is a risk posed to people while they're at a park site. But there's not a lot of communication about the risk or what the response would be or what we would do to it. This takes me back to my previous answer about the need to innovate and leverage technology the way they're not doing it today at East Bay Parks. It's not complicated to send text message, geo-fenced warnings to folks who are on their phone. A strategy to do that, a platform whereby you're able to communicate to the public that East Bay Parks is able to take these steps to address wildfire risk for folks that are on site, is that all about communicating with the public. Here's the plan, here's the risk, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're leveraging and harnessing technology to reduce that risk. So that's what I'd be very focused on. Again, public communication and harnessing technology to mitigate risk.
Okay, Casey, your turn.
Great. I agree with many of the ideas that have been shared. I don't know the plan on earthquakes specifically, but I want to go back to wildfire risk. And, the Park District recently did this in early July. They closed a number of parks, and they did so because there was both a heat advisory and a red flag warning through hundreds of acres in the East Bay. It was really serious risk. What I appreciated about that is the public communication was larger than I had seen it in the past, and it was really positive. It encouraged the public to not visit parks, not in a way that said closing off access and we're unavailable to you, but in a way that says help us keep our parks and our communities safe. And I really appreciate that messaging, because I'm sure that a number of people over the 4th of July holiday were disappointed not to be able to enjoy them in our parks as they had planned. We serve so many picnic gatherings, and so many families and community organizations come to our parks as their place to congregate and gather. So I appreciated the messaging was really focused on public safety and engaging the public to be partners with us in that. And we need to expand upon those communication tools so that everyone in our community has access to them. They don't show up to a park and get turned away. We can have more dynamic, and we should work with ethnic media and a broader set of our community.
Okay. All right. Question number 6, and Shane, you're going to lead us off with this. What is the mountain lion population within Ward 2 boundaries, and what is your position on East Bay Regional Park District's responsibility to protect mountain lion habitat?
I don't know how many mountain lions there are in Ward 2, but I know that it's a tricky balance. It's like all issues, East Bay Parks, there's different user groups with different interests. And so a big part of our job is making sure that we understand what the input is from all the different parties. Mountain lions will not be represented necessarily directly in the conversation, but the interest of the mountain lion will be represented, because we want to make sure that we include the voice of all interested parties. So there are hunters, and there are folks that believe in protecting wildlife. So we've got to bring these people together, document their concerns, make sure that everyone feels like their position has been expressed, articulated, and captured, and put together a plan forward that is incremental and maybe based on a pilot program to maybe manage wildlife in a certain area, and then report back on progress. But this would be sort of incremental change through a pilot program where all interested parties are able to participate in the progress and in the results. So if there's an issue around wildlife management, we deal with it just like we would any other complicated issue at East Bay Parks.
Okay. So Casey, you're next.
I too am not familiar with the exact number of mountain lions, but I would hope that if the question is getting at about public safety, that the Park District would do everything it needs to do if there are mountain lions that may threaten visitors to our parks, hikers, cyclists, anyone, and that it would encourage us to stay in spaces that would protect the needs of the mountain lions and keep the public safe. I'm honored to have the endorsement of the East Bay Animal Pack to understand the needs of us protecting wildlife and protecting all the species that are in our parklands. I don't know how to further answer that question, although I do know that the Park District is active with bio blitzes. It's encouraging the public to come out and help us monitor and see what type of wildlife and are in our parks. I don't know if mountain lions are part of that, as I've not had many sightings myself, but I think that public education is really important. We have a great set of naturalists who provide that information, who produce materials at the entrances of the parks, and I am really honored to have earned the endorsement of our park workers. That's AFSCME 2428. And I really, really value the work that they do in public education, being that interface and answering people's questions.
Okay, Lynda, how about you?
I just love this forum and these questions. You're testing us out to the limits. Mountain lions, their biggest threat is us, human development. And so I don't know the numbers. And that's the exact kind of question where even at the Parks Advisory Commission, I am not seeing in our staff reports. We get a lot of information about fiscal impact, but I think it's super important that we look at environmental impacts and equity impacts in all our staff reports in this second century plan, because I don't know that answer. I know that they're on the endangered. I don't think they're on the ESA. I would have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure they're a species of special interest, and their numbers have dwindled. At the same time, like I was mentioned earlier, education about the danger of trees versus the fact that mountain lions aren't going to come near us, except you hear some strange, when the animals are sick, sometimes are rabid. But I think we need to really look at that. We have a natural resources subcommittee, and they probably have those questions, but we aren't always getting those at the PAC. And even the people at the table aren't getting the decisions, the information they need to make the decisions, because that's a question that we should be able to answer. When we put a new bike trail, we should know what it goes through. What are the biological resources in that area? What are the habitat? What animals? And that should be front and center, since we are a natural resources agency. And we're going to always have impacts with humans and animals coming in into contact with one another. So how do we do that in a safe and meaningful way, and at the same time be stewards of this natural resources agency?
Okay, thank you all. All right, we're on to question 7. And Casey, you're going to go first with this. Public transportation to the parks seems difficult. What can be done to increase access via public transportation and reduce visitors' climate footprint from driving?
This is definitely part of my access platform to increase the number of public bus systems that come to our parks on the shoreline and in the hills, where that is feasible, where that is sustainable, and where that will actually bring people to our parks. I think we have a number of people who have never been to a regional park. They don't know what gear they need. They don't know what equipment they need. And they may be more comfortable and more regular visitors to our parks if they come with a trusted community organization, such as their faith community, or their preschool, their after school program, or their neighborhood association. So my vision is to equip those organizations with grant funding through our foundation or through other resources to have more community field trips. I think we can deploy field trips to spaces that maybe have less users, less visitors at certain times of the day, and we can break down those barriers to why folks are not coming to our parks. And I think really a lack of access to our nature is an environmental injustice, and it's something that we need to break down those barriers as the park district, with so many amazing places to recreate and trails to walk on. So I think we have a lot of electric buses that we can utilize or partner with organizations. We also really want to focus on park prescriptions, which are ways that doctors are encouraging their patients to get outside, and we can help them do that.
Hey, Lynda?
This question comes up to us quite a lot, and I think we have to keep in mind that we are not a transportation agency. We manage the land, but it's AC Transit that has cut the bus routes during COVID. They didn't want to go out to those areas, and they're really pushing for the park district to find the funding. So we need to find the funding to pay them to do the job that they do, so that they can get parks to us. So I think we're in a bit of a gridlock there, and it's not a simple thing to say we can add more buses and things. We really have to work on this partnership and funding and trying to identify what's best overall for the public good. And maybe we do need to look at establishing more of a transportation group or meeting to undo that gridlock. But one thing that was interesting, Oakland Unified School District told me that she is still going up to the schools on the public buses, that she can actually get up to Chabot, a Space and Science Center, and use that as a public route, and then walks into the forest with her teachers. So I think, again, one of the things we keep hearing is education and outreach, and making sure people understand what are we dealing with in the parks. And maybe there are opportunities that some teachers know how to get there that others could benefit from. And maybe we do need to take parks down to the people. I was a science teacher and substitute teacher where we got FOSS kits from the California Academy of Sciences, and we can take some of that down to the classroom also. That doesn't take away the problem that we need to to get people to parks, but parks to people. We have a 1,500-acre fish tank on wheels. So we need to figure out, and then once those are in place, maybe the community can find other ways to get up to us and into the parks.
Okay, and Shane.
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree. I love the concept of you can bring people to the parks, you can bring parks to the people. I think there's a lot of opportunities to extend physical access to the parks through our inter-park trail network so that people can learn about access where they can actually get to the parks, but they just don't know it. And this comes back to one of the points I brought up earlier. There's no map. There's no maps. So, the entry point for anybody who's going to visit a park is to go online and access online resources. That's how you get people to understand the best way to get to a park. There's tons of great transportation, but there's no consistent mapping tool so that people can figure out how to get from their home to the location that they want to reach within the park. So I'm a big advocate for refreshing the mapping platform at East Bay Parks so it's more integrated with other transportation systems in the Bay. It can help people get from point A to point B in an application that's mobile and easy to use. And I think that would go a long way in helping people get to parks. Establishing a way that's kind of permanent, isn't based on programs or pilots or funding, but really puts the power in the people's hands to get themselves to the park. That would be a big improvement, and that's going to be something that I work on.
All right. Now the candidates will be making closing statements. We will reverse the order that we began with. Lynda, you'll go first, then Casey and Shane. Lynda, you have 1 minute.
Well, thank you again. I just absolutely find this to have been one of the best interview candidate forums that we've had. I think getting out the vote, the smart vote, is what's important. I think you've really gotten us out of the box with important topics. The Park District is a jewel, and we cover all topics. We cover everything from fire to safety to crime to protecting animals. And this is going to require a candidate that can meet all those requirements for the job. I have worked with multi-agencies. I have managed multi-million-dollar projects at the EPA. I have the experience, I have the passion, and I have the degrees and the background, and I'm already doing the work. So other people have been on parks commissions or been on the park committee for a short period of time, but I have been preparing for this job. I've been Dee Rosario's appointee for the nearly 6 years, and he's retiring, and I'm ready to take off and take that job and hit the ground running. I know firsthand about the issues facing our parks. I will come on board ready to work, and I would be honored to represent you and have your vote.
Okay, Casey, how about your closing statement?
So for 7 years, I led a Girl Scout troop in Oakland's Fruitvale neighborhood with a group of Latina young women. And I saw the power of our East Bay Regional Parks to transform. They had never been past their own neighborhood park, and we spent the majority of our meetings in the parks, hiking, learning how to camp, learning a lot of outdoor skills. It was influential to their young development, to their confidence building, all of the learning, tons of learning opportunities. And those really should be afforded to all young people. And I have deep roots in our community to build those partnerships and expand the number of low-income and marginalized community members that benefit from all the things we love about East Bay Regional Parks. I also think that we have, I want to share a few of my endorsements, the Alameda County Democratic Party, every single council member from Orinda, Moraga, and Walnut Creek, the mayor of Piedmont, and the founder of Outdoor Afro, Rue Mapp.
All right. Thank you to our candidates for running for this office and for their participation this evening. And thank you to our audience participants and your interest in making informed choices. Your local leagues also participate in Vote 411, an online collection of candidates' information. We encourage you to view the candidates' resumes, platforms, and positions there. That web address is vote411.org. Your local league will also be hosting numerous additional forums for local candidates who will be on your ballot. Please visit your local league's website using the links you see on the screen, and which will also be posted in the chat box. There you can find information about these upcoming forums, including how to attend and how to submit questions in advance. To watch a recording of this forum, visit our League of Women Voters of Piedmont YouTube channel. You can also access recordings of previous forums there. Members of the League of Women Voters do the hands-on work to defend democracy and empower voters. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping important issues to keep our community strong. If you would like to be involved with the women and men helping make democracy work for everyone, it's easy to join the League. You can register to vote online through October 21st, 2024 at 5 p.m. Same day registration is available in person through Election Day, November 5th, 2024. Ballots will begin to be mailed out starting October 7th. You can vote in person, by mail, or place your ballot in an official Alameda County ballot drop box. And please remember to cast your ballot on or before Election Day, November 5th. Encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote. Thank you. This officially ends our forum.